space race of the 1960s was in response to an event.
Hello and welcome. We are now at the... my name is Jesse, and this is Grayson. We are now at the end of what is, at this present moment, and soon will no longer be, the Transformers trilogy. And, well, I'll begin with it just to give Michael Bay some credit. Transformers Dark of the Moon, at least the first, let's say, half of it or so, does represent more of an attempt to improve. There are scenes where they actually set up an atmosphere, and they got rid of the racist robots. But do not mistake that for this being a good film. This is better than the second film, or it's not as bad as the second film.
I think that if I can just cut in, I think that everything that you've just said is kind of the telling tale of the Transformers franchise, and that the reason why this movie is better than the second one is that all of the things that are just so awful about the second movie are lessened slightly. They're not gone, they're just lessened slightly. We know the racist robots aren't in here anymore, but they're replaced by two robots that are just as annoying. The little robots played by Tom Kenny in his worst role ever. Tom Kenny is the guy who voiced SpongeBob. Yep, SpongeBob is in this movie. The twins are replaced by those guys, so we still have a pair of exceptionally annoying, smaller than usual robots, so he gets to keep that. The first hour of this movie is entirely pointless. We have the exact same thing where instead of Sam's out of college, Sam's looking for a job. What does that add to the plot? Nothing. Big shock. It's a Transformers movie. We gotta have an hour of Shia LaBeouf messing around
and
with something
complaining.
that has nothing. Oh my god, he complains a lot in this movie.
I want to do something. Why won't you let me do something? He's saying that all the time, and what I don't understand is, what did you do in the last two movies?
Oh, he saved everybody twice. Somehow.
By shoving the Allspark into Megatron's chest.
Which immediately won everything, as you know.
Yeah.
That's how that works. He put the effort into finding Optimus Prime, I guess, in the second one. But in the first one, what did he do? He beat Megatron accidentally?
Yeah.
Who wasn't even the reason why they were losing the battle. It's just everybody was already dead and Megatron was already on the ground, and he's like, if any other Autobot had showed up at that minute, it would have been like, I'll just shoot you in the face, Megatron, and you're dead. So Sam literally pretty much would have done nothing at that point.
Yeah. And
nothing.
Just destroyed the hopes of rebuilding the planet.
Oh yeah, because essentially their god is dead now.
Yeah.
I would actually be really mad at Sam. I'd be like, you killed our god, you asshole. We can't rebuild our world anymore. Maybe that's why they decided to improbably beam Cybertron right next to
I'm actually going to say, there are two things I actually think are even worse than the last film. And first is, you probably should all know this film's 2 years old. Megan Fox is replaced. 3 years old.
Whatever.
Megan Fox is replaced by a British girl who was a Playboy bunny, apparently. And I think she's worse than Megan Fox. And here's why. Megan Fox might have been a sex symbol, but she did things. In the first film, she kills a Megatron, a little mini bot, a mini Decepticon with an axe.
So
That makes her more effective at killing things than Sam does. In fact, she can repair cars. So that makes her...
That doesn't make her a useful character. That just makes her useful. She has personality.
And by the way, she's never kidnapped. That's more... What does the new girl do? Well...
She gets kidnapped.
We get a close-up of her buttocks as she is climbing... Yes, I'm very fancy. Climbing as she's that area as she's greeting Sam. And she gets kidnapped. Mm-hmm. And most of the film feels... Watching the movie, I felt like that was definitely Megan Fox was supposed to be there.
I think we have talked about this before, that it really does feel like the relationship that these two have, they're living with each other, they're they're somewhat discussing like, oh, like, do you love me or something like that. Oh, are we? And then at the end, it's like, oh, are we gonna get married? And it feels kind of like they just replaced this character with the older character, but it's like they kept the original script, but then when Megan Fox got fired, they're like, oh, well, let's get somebody else to leave the script exactly the same.
And that makes the ending particularly out of place because when like
it's very.
I'm like if it was Michaela, I can't even remember. I remember the name. That's where Megan with the wings that would have made sense because you saw the progression throughout 3 films. For this new character, it's just all of a sudden. Oh yeah.
I also find that moment humorous because Bumblebee is like putting the rings on the ground. I didn't find it humorous because the actual moment I'm just thinking like that would be like if I was like, get the flesh off of me and I'll just like put it on the ground and like here pick that up and like put it on your finger, put my flesh on your finger, turn it into a ring.
No,
it's great for weddings.
No, it'd be like if you approached me and a girl and you would just started doing that.
Here, take it, put it on your finger. I don't want to put this on my finger. I also like it because they weren't like the right size. They were like the size of like the width of her body or something like that. But I just thought that moment was funny for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, go on. You were saying there's another point that is worse.
I think that the character of Sam Witwicky is insufferable.
Yeah.
Completely insufferable. At the entire movie, he is doing nothing but complaining. I want a job. I want to be able to help. I want Bumblebee to be here. Where's my Bumblebee?
Which is also a problem because he has an Ivy League education and got a medal from Obama.
Yeah.
And all he can get is a mailroom job with John Malkovich.
Which you can't tell anyone about because it's classified, even though we all know about it.
And they're doing the interview with Bill O'Reilly about how, oh yeah, the Transformers exist, but then there's a scene when he's just like, I can't tell you why I saved the world, but you already know that there's aliens, so why can't they just know that he was involved in it in some way?
Right.
I don't really
what I don't
understand
understand is this. Another thing I just don't understand about that. So imagine you're John Malkovich and you hear this guy and he's like, I saved the world twice. Would you hire that guy?
No, he sounds like a crazy person. No, and well, I mean, if I was John Malkovich, the actor in general, I would be like, and I was called like, hey, you're going to be in the newest Transformers movie. Oh, am I going to be like voice acting a robot? No, you're going to be a totally pointless character that never comes back into the movie, and you're going to have a weird, quirky attribute of you don't like red cups on like the 5th floor. Yeah, like who takes that job and is like, yes. I mean, other than obviously a paycheck, which I get. This movie made an abhorrent amount of money.
This film especially just sort of baffles me how
$1 billion. It's a $1 billion product right there. $1 billion product right there.
And I don't understand, and I especially don't understand with this movie because it is really boring.
I mean, the second movie isn't even boring. I don't even know if that movie's boring, for me at least. It's just it's literally engaging you in how awful it is, and not in a so bad it's good kind of way. You're just so irritated at everything that it's literally shocking you every second of how much more it's managing to irritate you as the movie goes on. In this movie, it's really boring and just unentertaining throughout most of it, up until it kind of just turns into the exact same feeling of the climax that you get from the second movie, where it's after 15 minutes or so of action that just has no consequence, action that is just going on and on. You literally feel like your brain has like slid out of your ear and is plopped on the floor and you're drooling. Like that is exactly what this movie is. It's pretty much the same thing as the second movie, just the especially bad things are lessened slightly,
Slightly.
Yeah, slightly.
Sorry, I just thought of a third thing this was. John Turturro
was awesome in the first two.
His character, I felt bad for a lot of stuff they did to him, but at the same time, he's still John Turturro. This film, he's downright
terrible.
Sexually harassing a girl.
Well, that's not John Turturro's fault.
Okay, it's not his fault. I'm talking about his character. I don't know his character's name.
Agent Simmons?
Thank you, that's his name. I didn't know that.
If I had to have somebody come back in the fourth movie, I hope it's him, honestly.
I don't think anyone does. No.
Oh, man.
Except the Autobots, I think.
They don't even look the same anymore. Like, the new trailers show that they don't even really seem to have the same design anymore. It's also
pretend it never happened.
Yeah, they also seem to have a totally different, like, design of the CGI for them now. They look far more cartoony it's weird, like the direction that they're going with
Yeah.
this whole one. Yeah, go. You were.
I mean, I think that, like he does. He downright sexually harasses Nicole.
No, it's in the post credit scene, so it's okay.
It's not just that. No, he does that in the other scenes as well. He's following like the national director of national intelligence. By the way, she has the worst pun ever. Remember that line? As the director of national intelligence, I prefer to have intelligent answers.
I thought that was as clever as this movie was gonna get. How about that?
Yeah.
A pun is the most clever movie in the entire movie. I remember laughing at one point, which is probably more than. It's actually sad that I thought the sequels were more effective at making me laugh than the first movie was, but much like the last one, you really do just want this movie to be over after a while. And honestly, there's not too much to even say about this movie. It's like the exact same thing as the second movie. Just like I said, lessen slightly. It's like if you liked the second movie inexplicably, then you will like this movie because it is the. Well, actually, no. I will give this movie. It kind of does try to go back to the what the first movie did in terms of building atmosphere. There are definitely scenes where they're trying to make you feel some kind of drama, which is that's adorable that you think that we care at this point. But it is trying, and I'll acknowledge that. You were more drawn in by those scenes.
I was. I was considering giving it a 4 for the beginning parts. In the beginning, and then they really fell apart. It's like the first half was trying to be better, and then they said, forget it. But there was some stuff even in the beginning that really angered me. The idea that Chernobyl was because of alien technology. I mean,
there's a lot of
there's a line they have in the movie I think actually sums up why that's not okay. And talking about how much a tragedy is, and I think a man says, Ukraine was such a fertile land. It's such a shame. I think that's the wrong accent, but it was. But not good with that. I'm not good with accents. But yeah, it was a tragedy. I mean, that was a really fertile land. People died. People were driven out of their homes. There was a whole land which used to be a bustling area is dead for the next 20,000 years.
Well, you can blame the Transformers on that.
Yeah, it's because of Michael Bay.
And that's not the only example of that. I mean, we repeatedly evoke images of thoughts of 9/11 and the Challenger, like where if I can just say with the Challenger, where the building is just being blown up out of the air and everybody's watching on the TV, and it looks exactly like the Challenger explosion, and you're like, and everybody's like, and a line before that came like, where were you when this would have happened? So it kind of has that kind of thing of like, oh man, what a tragedy that this happened. And then there's also we repeatedly have images of buildings crumbling, ships flying into other buildings, and just like I swear there was a line when somebody said like ground zero or something like that, and to me it just gets really like thank you, Michael Bay. Thank you. You are on it. Like beyond the fact that you just made 3 exceptionally bad movies, you are a really terrible person.
Oh, we know that from
really terrible person. What?
Don't forget, he made Michael Bay isn't definitely not the best at understanding when to not make something, when something might be a little too far, because he made Pain and Game.
Well, you didn't see. I did see Pain and Game, which is a eye-opening tale of someone just crumbling into excess. Not the themes of the movie. Michael Bay once more. It's really uncomfortable to watch when you see like The Rock grilling people's like fingers off, and it's obviously supposed to be comedy. Like and there's a little part of you in the back of your mind that's like, wow, that actually happened. And Michael Bay thinks this is hilarious.
Right, and by the way, the reason I'll never see it is because I think that it's just, this is not something that happened 20 years ago. This is something, less than a decade ago, this happened. And
it's sad that it's probably his best movie that I've seen of his.
Oh yeah, and the family of the victims were not okay with it. They said, I'm not really very happy with this.
But the movie would have made money. Well, the movie did make money, and money is more important.
Yeah. But and not only that,
Transformers
I think
3.
not only that, there was one scene that seemed almost akin to Schindler's List, where like the bot he's being killed, and he's clearly a Jewish stereotype. He seems like one of them immediately. So he's a scientist. He's smart, so he must be Jewish.
No. Well, that's actually something that is another problem. Where even in the first movie, I could name like at least a tiny little thing about some of the Transformers, the Autobots at least. In this movie, they are literally defined by their goofy accents. Like you got your Scottish Transformer, and you got like your I don't know. Like there's a bunch of
every target transformer. The transformer with the target sign on his waist.
That was. I was so angry when you pointed that out. Like I remember like you're just like, why is there a target symbol on him? And I'm like, oh, is he about to be like sniped by someone? And then he said, no, like the symbol for the company Target is on his chest. I'm like, oh, come on, like really? This is. And the problem is, I actually didn't even notice me, so it's not even effective product placement.
And maybe it's not. Maybe he's just did not realize this looks like Target. Maybe
Yeah.
we shouldn't put this on here. This kind of looks like Target. But
yeah, they're not defined by anything other than their accents. And then
or there's the one Autobot that literally the only thing he's defined by is at the end of the movie he says to Bumblebee, "Good job."
Oh yeah, that was awesome. I love that. Like it literally could have been like somebody could have just popped out of nowhere, like punch in the arm. Good job, Bumblebee. We did a good job. And like I wonder how much that voice actor was paid for being there for like literally
5 seconds.
like not even 5, like literally 2 seconds. Like good job, Bumblebee. You got paid to say 3 words. I hope he was paid by the way.
Paid by the word.
Probably wasn't paid much, but
minimum. You get $30,000 per word.
Yeah. They had money to spare.
Oh, and then the product. Well, there's so much product placement. Of course, there is. I mean, and you see it. It's rampant throughout the film. I pointed out the target.
Yahoo.
There's a waste disposal company that is advertised in this film.
Yeah, that was great. Like, yeah, are we gonna switch our waste disposal company to like someone else's? And it's just like neighborhood. Oh, we'll just. At least to me, it's just like, oh, neighborhood will get this. But I just let things happen in my neighborhood.
Oh, and not just that, but there are also scenes that are pointless as well. For example,
really?
A whole subplot
other than the previous hour that was totally pointless.
No, but like the one of the subplots are pointless. So the girl has this boss who's keeping her hostage, and so he says, "Oh, you need to get
Patrick
you need to get Optimus Prime to say his plan." So he has this gives him this witch watch, this Decepticon, so he'll tell him. And what's the plan? Nothing.
Yeah, they had no. Yeah, so they like set up this scene for like 3 minutes, and the actual scene is like a slapstick sequence that ruins the tone of the previous scene, which is a huge problem in all these movies. Where in the middle of an action scene or a dramatic scene, someone will say some stupid joke and then just try to go back to the dramatic scene. Like, oh yeah, well, the dramatic scene, a little joke. Oh yeah, we're gonna just ask you to still be in this dramatic scene. Aren't you still in this dramatic scene? But I like. No, I don't like this, but. I'm totally gonna steal this phrase from another reviewer. Patrick Dempsey, really? Dr. McBad Television is gonna be the villain of your $200 million Transformers movies? And Patrick Dempsey is probably like the best villain of all of the people in like these Transformers movies.
I recognize him.
Yeah, you can tell that. Well, there is Sentinel Prime, Leonard Nimoy giving the best performance of the entire movie, and also the most not dignified.
Outweigh the need of a few.
That was totally on spot.
Thank you, Michael Bay, for giving us that moment.
Yeah, ruining one of the best lines and most important lines in the history of science fiction. It's wonderful.
And not to mention, one thing I've noticed in this film throughout the series is, so Bay really likes slow-mo. When he likes something, you can tell because he uses it all the time, whether it needs it or not.
It turns into I mentioned this before. It turns into like a Paul W. Sanderson movie where it's just like, oh, we're just gonna have slow-mo while they're walking to the deli or something like that. Like it's so I mean, slow motion can be used to enhance a story. I think of Dread 3D or like A Clockwork Orange, where the slow motion is actually being utilized to enhance what's going on. But No, it really does. In modern action movies, it really is starting to annoy me. We'll just make it slow motion for absolutely no reason at all.
He does it all the time.
I wonder if they actually sped up those scenes to like actual normal motion. Like we could cut another 10 minutes out of this movie. That'd be nice if we could cut another 10 minutes out.
We might be able to. That's how much he uses it.
Seriously, it probably is at least 10 minutes.
And what I don't understand as well is that there's still people who really like all of these movies, and especially for this one, the action is the worst part might be the worst part of the movie because it's boring. It's so boring. Nothing interesting ever happens in the action. You remember in the it feels like an eternity. You remember when we were watching it, we watched that one together. We would check that time left.
Oh yeah, that was good. That was more fun than the movie where we're just like, oh wow, it's been 3 minutes since we last checked how much longer there is left in this movie.
And then afterwards, I would just get on the floor and start saying the Jewish prayer that we have to say before we die because this movie's gonna kill me.
Yeah, that was strange that you kept doing that.
I thought it was
even more than the second movie. Well, actually, no, that's tough to say because there is that almost 15-minute long stretch of the second movie. The climax to that where like literally nothing is happening. It's just Megan Fox and Shia LaBeouf running through the desert while stuff is blowing up around them and they run in slow motion literally for 15 minutes.
Right.
So
and when we say nothing is happening, it's not like this character development or something like that. It's nothing.
It's Shia LaBeouf yells 38 times in the climax of the movie. And we actually counted. Well, he yells a couple other times towards the beginning of the movie for absolutely no reason. Like he just freaks out Nick Cage style for no reason at all, just like it's some random guy. But other than like, so maybe subtract like at most 8 yells. He yelled, we counted like 30 times, and every time he just sounds like a complete mincing fool. And Shia LaBeouf, I respected what he was doing in the other movies, but here he really just obviously doesn't even know what to do. He literally comes off like he's giving a comedic performance, but he's just like, I haven't seen an actor give a slapsticky comedic performance in so long where it just looks like he's miserable doing it the entire time. And he tries to add charisma, but you can see kind of on his face that he doesn't really want to be here anymore, and at least I got that impression. So even like one of the only good things that was even in this franchise in the first place, which is, I guess, Shia LaBeouf, it's wasted. Just wasted Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. And he said Shia LaBeouf is not a tremendous actor, but he has charisma. You wasted the only person that had talent. Well, and John Turturro, you wasted
actually, a lot of the actors had talent. I mean, but they
didn't always show it.
They didn't always show it, but I mean, well, I'll say is this: Michael Bay can totally tell directors do this.
Mm-hmm. And that's another strange thing about this movie, that this movie is like star-studded. Like, we'll just like. We'll put John Malkovich and Frances McDormand in this movie for absolutely no reason. Like I can't even believe that the woman who was in Fargo and just did such a great job in that movie is just completely wasted in this movie. Just being the bitchy, like
being that girl who John Turturro falls around and compliments her.
Yeah, that was really not something I needed to see. Overall. It's kind of strange to even say this, but I enjoyed it a lot more than the second one. Though, I think at least final thoughts for me. Everything about the movie is pretty much the same as the second one, honestly, except for the most part, everything is lessened slightly, but it does kind of go to show what happens when you lessen slightly these terrible things. And the acting it doesn't really work anymore for me, at least. But at least they are trying to build. They have scenes where they're trying to build atmosphere for. So for me, at least, I'm gonna give it a solid 3 out of 10. Also, I would like to say that the effects, like the second one, knolling effect, don't even work for me anymore. So can't even factor that in. 3 out of 10.
And I'm going to also give it a 3 out of 10. The movie is, I agree with you, Grayson. It is mainly just taking what the second film had done wrong and making it slightly less bad. And I will give it credit that it does at times actually set up an atmosphere, and it shows for the first hour of the film that it looks like they are trying to do that, and then they're like, well, we're gonna make money. Then they realize, wait, we could do whatever we want, and we'll still make money. Just kind of imagine the screenwriters just saying that. But there are also aspects that are worse. I think the acting, everyone who, at the very least, had some charisma, they've lost it. John Turturro, I just feel embarrassed for him. I'm glad he's not in the next film because, frankly, I don't want to see that ever done to him again. And Shia LaBeouf just becomes insufferable. The new character who plays Megan Fox is
Boring.
She's not even a character. She's a prop.
They
She
were
is
props
no
to the other
different.
ones.
If this pair of pants, she's not different than this pair of pants. She is something that she's a thing. So yeah, a 3.